5 years ago, my father-in-law looked me straight in the eye and said, "Pack your things and get out of my son's house." I was holding my 6-month-old daughter in my arms. It was raining outside, and I had nowhere to go. Last month, he had to call me ma'am in that meeting.
I'm not telling you this story to brag.
I'm telling you because 5 years ago, I would have laughed in your face if you told me this would happen. So if you're going through something right now that feels impossible, stay with me. Because this got so much worse before it got better. Okay, let me back up. My name doesn't really matter for this story, so I'll just tell you what happened. I married my husband, let's call him Daniel, when I was 26. He came from money. Not crazy rich, but comfortable. His dad owned a mid-sized logistics company, the kind that trucks goods between cities. Maybe 60 employees. A name people in our town actually recognized.
Me?
I grew up different. My mom raised me alone after my dad left. We didn't have much. I worked through college, waitressing, tutoring, whatever paid. When I met Daniel, I fell for him fast. He was kind, funny, and he didn't care that I didn't come from a good family, as his mother liked to put it. But his parents cared. A lot. From day one, his mother made little comments. "Oh, you don't know how to use that kind of cutlery? That's cute." His father was worse. He just looked through me, like I was staff who'd wandered into the dining room by mistake. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I wasn't marrying his parents, I was marrying him. You know how that logic works out. Or maybe you don't yet. I sure didn't. We got married in a small ceremony. His parents barely came. We moved into an apartment above their company's warehouse office, which Daniel managed part-time while finishing his business degree. It wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. Then I got pregnant. I thought that would soften things. I really did. I thought, a grandchild changes everything. And for a while, it seemed like it might. His mother started calling more. She wanted to know the due date, wanted to talk names. But his father? Still cold. Still distant. Still looking at me like a math problem that didn't add up. Here's where things started falling apart. Daniel's dad had this rule. Everyone in the family earns their place in the business.
Sounds fair, right?
Except somehow, that rule only ever applied to me. I started helping out at the office when I was pregnant. Filing, scheduling, answering phones. I actually liked it. I was good at organizing chaos, and honestly, that place was chaos. Half their inventory tracking was on paper. Paper. In this day and age. I started fixing little things. Nobody asked me to. I just saw problems and I couldn't help myself. His father noticed, but not in a good way. "Stay out of things you don't understand," he told me one afternoon when I suggested a better way to track late deliveries. I remember standing there 7 months pregnant, feeling my face go hot. I didn't say anything back. I just nodded and went home. You might be wondering why I didn't push back harder. Honestly, I was scared. Scared of being too much. Scared of confirming every assumption his family already had about me, that I was some outsider trying to weasel my way into their money, their name, their business. So, I shrank myself. I made myself smaller and smaller, hoping it would make me acceptable. It didn't work. It never does. My daughter was born in March. Beautiful, healthy, loud in the best way. For about 2 weeks, things felt okay. His mother even cried holding her. Then Daniel came home one night and told me his father wanted to restructure things. That meant Daniel needed to work longer hours at the warehouse, sometimes overnight shifts, managing a new contract they'd landed. I was alone with a newborn most nights. No family nearby. No real friends in that town. I'd moved there for Daniel, remember? I was drowning, quietly, the way a lot of new moms drown without anyone noticing. I asked Daniel's mother for help one weekend, just to watch the baby for a few hours so I could sleep. She said she was busy. I later found out she was at a spa. I'm not saying this to make her sound evil. I think she just didn't see me as someone worth showing up for. That's its own kind of pain, you know? Not hatred. Just indifference. Somehow that hurts more. Now here's the part one still think about.
It was a Tuesday.
Daniel was on a delivery run 3 hours away. I hadn't slept more than 4 hours a night in about 6 weeks. The baby had colic, screaming for hours at a stretch, and nothing I did helped. His father showed up unannounced. He said he needed to talk to Daniel about something urgent with the business. Turns out a shipment had gotten delayed, and a client was furious. When he realized Daniel wasn't home, he looked at me holding my crying daughter, exhausted, hair a mess, still in the same shirt from 2 days before. And he said it. "This isn't working. You're a burden on this family and on my son's future. I think it's best you take the baby and go stay somewhere else for a while. Figure yourself out." I stood there in shock. I asked him what that even meant. Where was I supposed to go? He said, and I quote, "That's not my problem." I called Daniel. He didn't pick up. He was driving, no signal. I called his mother. She said, "Just do what his father says, honey. It's easier that way." Like I was being asked to switch grocery stores, not leave my home with an infant. I packed a diaper bag, 1 suitcase, and I called my mom. She lived 2 states away in a 1-bedroom apartment, but she said, "Come home," without even hesitating for 1 second. I drove through the night with my 6-month-old crying in the back seat. I cried too. I remember gripping the steering wheel and thinking, how did I let myself get here? How did I let this happen to me? That's the moment I decided something had to change. Not overnight, not dramatically, but something in me just shifted. Daniel found out what happened and he was furious. At his father, I mean. He drove to my mom's place the next day. He wanted us to come back, said he'd talked to his dad, said it would be different. I love Daniel. I do. But I told him something I'd never said out loud before. I'm not going back to being tolerated in that house. I'm done being small so your family can feel comfortable. He didn't understand at first. Honestly, it took him a long time to understand. We stayed separated for almost 8 months, not divorced, just figuring things out, living apart while he worked things through with his family, and I rebuilt myself from nothing at my mom's place. Those 8 months were brutal. I won't sugarcoat it for you. I applied for jobs with a gap in my resume and a baby on my hip during video interviews. I got rejected. A lot. I sold things online just to buy diapers. I remember one week I had $11 in my account before payday. $11 with a baby to feed. I never thought I'd say this, but there were nights I sat on my mom's bathroom floor after the baby finally fell asleep, just crying quietly so I wouldn't wake anyone. Not because I was weak, because I was human, and I was tired, and I felt like the world had decided I didn't matter. But something kept me going. Maybe it was spite. Maybe it was love for my daughter. Probably both. Here's where things start to turn. I eventually got hired at a small logistics startup, junior operations role, entry level, barely above minimum wage. But it was in the same industry as Daniel's family business. Funny how life does that. I threw myself into that job like my life depended on it. Honestly, it kind of did. I stayed late. I learned everything about supply chain software, route optimization, all of it. Asked questions nobody else bothered asking. I read industry reports on my lunch break instead of scrolling my phone. Within a year, I was promoted to operations manager. Within 2 years, I was running regional logistics for a company with contracts 3 times the size of Daniel's family business. During this time, Daniel and I slowly found our way back to each other, but on completely different terms. He'd had a huge falling out with his father, actually, after realizing what really happened that day I left. He started standing up for me, for us, in ways he never had before. We moved back in together, just the 3 of us, in our own place. Not above the warehouse. Our own place. His father's business, meanwhile, was struggling.
Badly.
Turns out being cold and stubborn doesn't translate well to running a modern logistics company. They lost 2 major contracts because their systems were outdated. Younger competitors were eating their lunch. I heard through Daniel that they were bleeding money, considering layoffs, maybe even bankruptcy. I felt something complicated hearing that. Not pure joy, I want to be honest with you. There was a flicker of something like satisfaction, sure. But mostly I just thought, wow. Pride really does come before the fall, doesn't it? Then, about a year ago, I got a call. It was from an investment group I'd been consulting for, a firm that buys struggling logistics companies, restructures them, and turns them profitable. They asked if I had any recommendations for acquisition targets in the region. I hesitated for a long moment. Then I gave them Daniel's father's company. I want to be clear. I wasn't doing this out of revenge. I promise you that. I genuinely believed the company had good bones. Solid client relationships, decent drivers, just terrible management, and worse technology. It was a smart business opportunity. It just also happened to be the company that once told me to get out in the rain with my baby. The investment group did their research. They loved what they saw after some outside changes anyway. They made an offer to buy majority ownership. Daniel's father, desperate to save what he'd built, agreed. Here's the part that still feels unreal when I say it out loud. The investment group asked me to lead the operational restructuring as majority stakeholder representative, meaning I'd have real authority over the company. Over him. I said yes before they even finished the sentence. The day I walked into that office for my first meeting as the new operational lead, Daniel's father was there. Older than I remembered. Grayer. Smaller somehow, though I know that doesn't make physical sense. He looked at me across that conference table, and for a second, neither of us said anything. Then he said, "I suppose congratulations are in order." I didn't gloat. I want you to know that. I didn't bring up the rain, or the diaper bag, or the $11 in my account. I just nodded and said, "Let's talk about the delivery route inefficiencies. I have some ideas." Because here's what I learned through all of this. Real power isn't about making someone else feel small the way they made you feel small. That's not winning. That's just repeating the cycle. Real power is walking into the room they threw you out of and choosing to be better than they were. Over the past year, we've turned that company around. Genuinely turned it around. New systems, better routes, happier drivers, growing profits. His father still works there, actually, in a much smaller role now, reporting up the chain past 2 other managers to me. He calls me ma'am in meetings now.
Not because I asked him to.
Because it's just how you address the person running things. I think about that night in the rain a lot. 6 months pregnant. 6 months postpartum. Holding my crying daughter, driving through the dark with everything I owned in one suitcase. If you told me then that 5 years later, I'd be sitting in his old office, making decisions about his company's future, I would not have believed you. Not for 1 second. But here's what I want you to take from this. If you're going through something right now that feels absolutely impossible, the people who make you feel small often do it because your potential threatens something in them. Their comfort, their control, their idea of how things are supposed to work. That's not about you being not enough. That's about them being afraid. You don't have to prove anything to people who never believed in you. But sometimes, just sometimes, life gives you the chance to prove it anyway. Not for them. For you. If you're in your own version of that rainy night right now, job loss, a breakup, family rejecting you, feeling like you don't belong anywhere, I need you to hear this. This isn't the end of your story. It might just be the setup. If this story meant something to you, if it reminded you of your own struggle, or someone you love, drop a comment below. I read every single one. Tell me, have you ever had to prove someone wrong who counted you out too early? And if you want more real stories like this one, hit subscribe. Because trust me, this isn't the last time we're going to talk about turning your lowest moment into your biggest comeback. Thank you for listening to my story. I'll see you in the next one.